Well, here we are, and I don't know what it's like there. How much is gas right now back in Georgia?
Oh man, it's a lot. Like
No,
it's
it's
close to
not.
four.
How much?
It's close to $4, I think.
You know how much
What
it
is
is
it in
here?
California?
So I was super excited today to get it for $5.45.
My
But
gosh.
if you drive down to LA,
Again, if California is so doggone great,
you just gotta come see it. Listen, you're down in LA. It was last week. It was over $7 a gallon last week in LA.
Sheesh.
So, yeah, it's nuts, man. You're like, do we need to drive there? Like, is that a must do trip right now?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we're like, only get your gas at Costco because that's the cheapest place here to get gas.
yeah.
But everybody's getting gas at Costco, so it looks like the apocalypse is coming. You're just
Yeah,
in
that's what's
line
weird. Some gas stations around here are like 20, 30 cents more than other gas stations. You're like, what the heck's going on?
yeah, it's all over the place. The only cheap place right now to get gas is Taco Bell. Hey,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
funny.
I see what you did there. You would have thought that the old middle school pastor would have said that joke, but
It's
nope.
been too long.
Jody
Man.
came
It's
up.
been too long. Yeah. Well, hey, welcome everybody to this episode. We're excited to jump in a little and talk through.
Yeah, man, I feel
some
like every episode we've had lately, it's
happenings.
been like we always have to say, we're going to talk about the wine spirit in just a minute, I think, but
Yeah,
we've said, well, it's been a little bit. It's been a
it's been
little
a
bit,
little
and
bit.
it has been a little bit,
Yeah,
but we're still alive.
we are still alive and kicking. And yeah, today I think will be a helpful episode, just for some clarity and direction and
Yeah,
some honest
this
stuff.
will be
So
good.
it'll be good. We do want to thank folks who help us make it happen, right? So our folks over at
Who have
YM360.
stayed with us in spite of our
Yeah.
lack of recording on a regular basis.
So
Yeah.
we love those guys. Camp's gearing up. I mean, they've got tons of stuff coming out, curriculum and
YM360, yes.
YM360. We love those guys. Trust those guys. Could not recommend them enough to you. And so we're thankful for them. You can use promo code Longer Haul for you and save you some money. But we did figure out it doesn't work. It doesn't work on camp, but it should.
Yeah, correct. It does not.
It
It
should.
does not.
So
But if you've made it this far and you don't have camp plans, you need to get on it quick.
you're in trouble, man. You know what is killing us for camp this year?
What's that? Gas prices?
Yeah, transportation. Holy moly!
I'll bet. Well, they're preparing. They know what's up.
Yeah, we're gonna be a little over budget this year on
Yeah,
transportation.
yeah.
So hopefully it comes down.
It's going to be a deal. Yeah, man.
Well, so today.
You want to talk about two other people,
Oh
Barrett?
yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's good.
sorry
Barrett
I
Johnson,
skipped.
and
Smartphones 101.
the smartphone dash 101 and info for family. Super incredible product, that helps parents sit down with their kids, and he's helped us out as well.
Yeah,
And
they're
then we've
great.
also got the game, which
Aerosport.fun,
you use
which we
on
use.
the
Still
regular.
going, man. We've abused that thing, and it's still hanging in there.
Yeah, it's great. So thanks
So
for those. Thanks for those folks for sure.
yeah, absolutely. Check out those. We'll have links for those things in the show notes. Those folks as well for you. Okay, so today we're quitting.
We're not quitting.
Everyone's like, yeah, we knew that. Finally, no, we're not quitting.
Yeah.
But I think just for some context, we do want to kind of give some context of where we are, where we've been, where we're headed, kind of
Yeah.
what's going on, a little bit of an update. We haven't done one of these in a while, and some big changes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's time, and ultimately, we'll just get to it. I reached out to Jody here maybe a couple weeks ago, I guess now, and had just been wrestling personally with my involvement with the longer haul. The history here, if you've started listening kind of towards the end, is you started this years ago. You did 50 episodes. I think it was
Yeah,
around episode 36. I jumped on when I wrote my book, and
Great book, by the way.
What?
Everyone should go buy it.
Thank you. We're about to redo. There's only 15 copies left at YM 360, and we're about to redo the whole thing. How about that?
So hurry.
Yeah. But that said, around episode 50, we became friends, and we started doing this together.
Yeah.
And so you invited me to be a part of this thing, and we've recorded
This
another,
is 123, I
you
think.
know,
Something like that.
56, 70 episodes or whatever the game now. So, which has been awesome. But since then, since all that started, both of our jobs have,
Yeah.
our jobs have changed. You moved out to California. The type of ministry you do, where while you're still doing youth ministry for sure, uh, the scope of that has changed and how you do that has changed. And then for me, having served for almost 17 years at the same church, well, just about 13, 14 months ago, my job changed where
Yeah.
I now direct next gen ministry in the state of Georgia for Georgia Baptists. And really, I think what happened, Jody, was ultimately, whereas in the past, one of my only outlets for encouraging other youth pastors has been being a part of this podcast. Now, my whole job now, though, is to encourage and help support churches with youth ministry.
Yeah.
And we've also learned that because of our schedules changing, it's become really difficult to figure out the hows and the whens we're going to record this thing, because we're working on my schedule, your schedule, plus a potential guest schedule as well.
And a 3 hour time
So,
difference. Yeah.
what's that?
And a 3 hour time difference.
And a 3 hour time difference, which really does create, yeah, and that's been a challenge for sure. So all that to say, man, the more I wrestled with that, and then you and I were together at
Yeah.
Conclave in January and
Yeah.
hung out some. I was so busy I didn't get to hang out with you much, but I don't know, man. After all of that, though, it just started to stir in my heart a little bit that I need to step back. I need to release you to do this thing. And I'm not saying that as some kind of like big, I'm such a great guy way at all. It's just my priorities and what's on top of my list has changed. Yours has changed.
Yeah.
And so really, I just said, hey, man, I just want to step out of it, and still be an encourager. Um, but at the time, you took a minute to really think through what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you going to keep doing it, or has it, come to an end? But in my mind, I'm hoping, I was like, man, I hope he keeps doing it, because I still think there's a place for this conversation to be taking place for sure. And there's a need for it for sure. I still value it for sure. And thankfully you've decided you are going to press on and
Yep.
continue to
Yeah.
make some recordings. Yep.
Yeah. And we revoked your microphone immediately, which you can tell.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, yeah, because I have a worse microphone this time because I'm using an AirPod, because I left my dang mic at
that's
the
so
office
funny.
in Duluth. Ugh. So anyway,
Yeah, I think we have enjoyed doing this together. I have, for sure. And our friendship has grown, no doubt, over the time, and will continue. Like I don't.
has it? Has it? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, once I moved away and we stopped arguing
Oh
over
gosh.
Alabama, that was much better. To be fair, you're the only about Alabama fan I'm friends with, so
Hey, there
there you
you
go.
go.
I have that
I'll
now.
take that.
I think we have. It's been an adjustment just in our roles in terms of, man, okay, what do we give? Then COVID happened.
COVID.
COVID.
And
I
we
mean,
definitely did not want to be the podcast. Hindsight, did we do that right? I don't know. But we didn't want to be the podcast that every single episode
was COVID,
was. Well, we know you're trying to figure out how to deal with COVID. So,
right?
yeah.
So we intentionally slowed a bit during COVID because, I mean, there wasn't much to say except for,
Yeah.
ministry stinks right now. I think,
And several times after COVID, we kind of had that conversation. You remember all
yeah,
these? We dig in. We'd be like, okay, we got to figure this out. We got to get it going. We got to get plan. We got to plan. Even put stuff on our calendar and all that. And we still can't get the traction.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
still can't get the traction. So I
yeah,
finally was like, I think we need to pay attention. Like, I need
yeah,
to pay attention to that. And I think it was
yeah,
about me giving you the grace and just saying, look, man, just go.
yeah.
Because there's some other things I'm working on from a content preparation standpoint.
And that's where it really gets complicated for you, right? Because so much of
Yes,
what you're doing now, as you said, and so much of what you're planning to do is now your job. Where
correct. Yeah, big
before
time.
those were kind of things that you and I were doing together on the side.
It
Um,
was our only outlet at the time.
it was the
Like it was
only
my
outlet.
only outlet.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
So,
getting to that and speaking at conferences and stuff. But yeah,
and now that's your full time deal. So,
yes.
this just becomes one more thing. Um,
Well, yeah, and I think also we recognize that not recording on a regular basis is not good podcasting.
right.
And
Yeah.
so we tried a couple times to dig in and fix that, but we have not been able to accomplish that. So I think the next answer to that is, Jody, you just need to run and forget about my schedule. You need to start getting guests and do your thing again,
Yeah.
which you're great at.
Yeah. We'll see. I think it's,
What are you talking about?
yeah,
You're
like
great at, dude. You're fine at it. Are you kidding?
it,
You know you are. Yeah.
there's a reason that I have had you as co-host, right?
Yeah. We'll go out and get another co-host. So
So,
yeah.
well, first I have to find a youth pastor still,
Yeah.
because there are no youth pastors left on the world in the world. It doesn't seem. Um, yeah, and I think um, I took some. I did take some time and think through what does that look like, and how where we go from here, and is there a forward? Is there a way forward? Is it something that is because here's the thing. When I started the longer haul way back, I don't even know what year it was. It was a blog. It started as a blog, right? And then it
Right.
evolved into this podcast. Um, and at the very beginning, a lot of it was me being burdened for folks that I knew in youth ministry who I was watching just jump from church to church and struggling to gain traction
Yeah.
for over a period of time. And then also kind of reflecting back in my own life, like what is it that has allowed me to be able to stay a little longer in places. And so I was kind of writing to 18-year-old me. Podcast really was, how do I learn to be better and how do I help folks along the way? It felt like there was a space and a need for that. But it was never really me. Like it was never the show, the longer haul, the podcast, the blog, whatever we've ever done. It's never really been about me. And I think I would hope that that comes across. Like this isn't a platforming. This was never a way for me to gain a ton of influence and step away and have this massive thing. And so the question for me has been over the last few weeks here is like, is there still a need? Is there still value? And can I help others and come alongside and do that? And I think post COVID, there's a huge need for people to learn and to grow in youth ministry. I think youth ministry is
Sure.
going to continue to evolve and look different.
Totally.
It feels like it's harder than it's ever been. I've had that conversation with several folks in the last few weeks. And so yeah, I think we're gonna keep plugging. I think that's where I kind of landed. Had some good conversations with my wife even about what that looks like, and so I don't know fully what it's gonna be. The podcast will stay. We're gonna stay. It may take me a week or two here to get things lined up and figured out, but yeah, I think podcast is gonna stay. It's gonna keep it on, and we'll see where it goes from there. The podcast group is gonna stay there as well, and try to continue to resource and help and encourage youth pastors to stay and to be healthy and to thrive where they are, and to stay put. And it feels like, and we were actually talking about this right before we started recording, like everybody I know, I mean, we're trying to hire somebody on our staff. We've been trying for about a year to find
Seriously.
a high school pastor. I know you're getting lit up with folks across the state. I get texts. I got one yesterday from friends who are trying to find and hire youth pastors. It feels like there are no youth pastors.
Yeah.
So it seems inevitable that there's a wave of new youth pastors coming,
Yep.
who are going to need to be encouraged and learn. And so I feel like, maybe if the longer haul can be a part of that, it'd be great.
Yeah. I agree, man. Agree
So,
big time. And I'm glad you're going to keep pressing on. So yeah. So that's the plan. I did take some time to reflect a little bit. I texted you this morning. I said, hey man, what if I share uh, some thoughts on things I've learned, and you were like, no, we don't want to hear that. No, because you don't work for. I'm kidding. No, lessons learned from being a part of the longer haul. You want to hear them? Some of them are about you. So, what was your
Oh no.
response? You actually froze for a second. That was weird.
Yeah, it says. Yeah, it looks like. Oh, there it goes. It's back.
We're good. All right. So, you want me to go after or what?
Yeah, jump in. I have no idea what they are. You have
Yeah.
not shared them with me,
No.
so
Hold on.
this will be.
Yeah. Funny, we're having technical difficulties on our last one together. It's pretty nuts.
That's the way.
So,
That's the way it always goes.
yeah. Well, here's number one. Uh, you're gonna laugh at these, I think. Number one is podcasting is harder than it looks. Right.
Yeah. Whoa, man.
Lessons learned. Lessons learned. Podcasting is harder than it looks. And here's why I say that. I think I would just say this to anybody that dreams about having influence or impacting others with content. Uh, I learned this when I wrote the book. You know, ultimately, it just boils down to, man, you just it just takes work. Like it just ain't, it takes work. We don't just sit down and just throw this together. It probably sounds like we're rambling at times, but honestly, there's intentionality behind the things we do when it comes to booking guests and all of the stuff we've done. And it's work. And not that's not even counting all of the how do you send out mail to your listeners and maintaining a Facebook group and uh, getting an image for the picking an image, all that stuff, man. It just adds up. So now I don't say that to discourage anybody from being a part of a podcast or starting a podcast. I'm just saying that I actually learned that it is harder than it looks.
Yeah, yeah. I learned that too. That's why you
Yeah, I bet
came.
you did.
That's why. Oh gosh.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I'm dabbling with some other things that about all these things, about like within the state of Georgia doing a thing for volunteer youth workers. But I know
Yeah,
I couldn't just do that on my own. Like I've got to have some help in order to pull that out because it's harder than it looks,
yeah,
getting that done. So
yeah. I think
that's just
doing
kind
it
of a
well, for sure. Doing it well is.
yeah, sure.
I mean, how
Yeah,
many
man.
people since you've been a part of the longer haul have asked for advice on a podcast, and you give it to them, and they they don't listen, and they're not
Yeah,
podcasting
totally.
anymore. Like it didn't last very long.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So
It's hard, and I think that's the part that we've learned, and obviously this is a result of that. Is maintaining it, long term is hard
yeah,
because your roles change and all that. So yeah. Number two, though, here's what I've learned though. That's more about the actual podcast, but when it comes to dealing with the issue of longer, experience a longer haul in youth ministry, I would just say that because of the fact that I've been a part of this podcast and I wrote a book on longevity, obviously I get asked and I have conversations with people about this a lot. And now with my new role, I am trying to help youth pastors. But I would just say number two, youth ministry for the longer haul is getting harder and harder.
yeah.
And it's not just COVID. It's not
No,
just COVID.
no.
It's a part of it. COVID's a part of it. But I think experiencing, I would even go as far as to say that it being in ministry, period, for the longer haul is getting harder and harder. And that's just from being someone that kind of thinks about that a lot and has a passion for longevity. But these are difficult days to be in ministry, period,
Yeah,
because the church is changing, culture is changing. Uh, it's just a whole lot easier to go make money doing other things and
hmm
just loving people than it is to fight with the church at times. And I see a lot of people that are stepping out. I think this is why we don't have enough people to fill all the roles that are available. I think a reckoning is coming when it comes to the church and how we do church. Uh, but it's getting harder and harder.
I sat last Tuesday. Went to lunch at like Freddy's Steakhouse, or whatever, and I'm sitting there watching the guy make fries in the back while I'm waiting on my food, and I'm daydreaming about his job. Like,
Yeah.
man, that that must be nice. And it's to the point where I'm like, I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, okay, he probably makes this much. I bet he works this many hours like that, and maybe DoorDash. Like, what can I cut out? Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's man, and I think everyone feels that, right?
Well,
Feels
yeah, I
that.
would think. I mean, I would think, yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, here's a third thing. This is just kind of totally, it's part of this, but I just felt like it was worth saying out loud so that people could hear that. But hear this. But number three, I think I didn't so much learn it from being a part of the podcast, but I'm reminded of how true it is, and that is the old rule of you have not because you ask not is still true. And what I mean by that is when it comes to doing ministry, sometimes you dream big. Man, it would be awesome if I could get old so and so to speak into my youth ministry. Or it would be awesome if our youth ministry could go to that one location. Or it would be awesome if, you know, keep going down the list. Sometimes it's just you just have to ask. And I think in podcasting, what I learned is I don't know that I could name anybody that we've ever asked to be on the podcast that turned us down. And
Yeah,
it has nothing to
yeah,
do with us. It just has to do with us being willing to ask the question. You
yeah,
know, the old rule back in the '90s. This is dating me big time. But when I was in the '90s doing youth ministry, you remember the old band Sonic Flood?
yeah.
Like I had them come in and do a thing, and they hit it big. You know, this is when they were first starting out. But I just asked. I had Dave Crowder come in and do 80 people at my D now, and I had Dave Crowder and the UBC
Mm-hmm.
from Waco. And I just it's just a matter of ask. And I learned that that's true then. I think it's true for youth ministry now. You'd be surprised what you can accomplish if you're just willing to step out and ask. Because sometimes you ain't got it because you ain't asked for it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes there's different ways too. If you need somebody to come in and equip and train and speak, like, man, you a Zoom call is
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
super easy right now. You know,
Real
you've done
easy.
some of that. We've done some of that. It's easier than ever. Easier than ever to get access to folks that maybe you wouldn't have before. But in the '90s, youth ministry was pretty dang easy in the '90s. It didn't feel like it in the '90s, but I look
Yeah,
back and I'm like,
totally.
oh man, those were fun days that we
Yeah.
should have all been fired for.
So this being my last podcast, I'm starting to think a little bit like that as I list these out. And number four probably falls into that category. My parting words, which I hope you'll invite me back on just for old time's sake at some point. But my parting words, one of them would be this: if you are listening because you're passionate about longevity, because you've already experienced longevity, in other words, you've got some experience under your belt, you've been doing this a little while, and you just love this topic, and you want to hang out with people that are also passionate about that. Number four for me is mentoring those starting out is so needed right now.
Oh man,
Mentoring
is it?
those starting out is so needed right now. I've learned that from the conversations, how hungry people are for what you and I are offering on this, and how many people want to help find answers to their questions. Now, doing what I do, I just know that there are a whole lot of people that are young, starting out, and they're dying to have somebody who is a little bit seasoned pour into them. So I would go as far as to say that if you're listening and you're seasoned, let's call seasoned 8 to 10 years in, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now not big time seasoned at 8 to 10, but you've been doing it for a minute here.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have another youth pastor you're helping at this point, why not? Like
Yeah,
why not find someone or make yourself available to help encourage somebody along the way, and do it for free. Forget this, any of this, like I'm going to charge somebody to come through this or whatever. Look, if you want to write a book, and there's not a lot of money in it anyway. Uh, hey, I did make $30 on my last one though. My last
whoa,
check.
that's like a record.
It is a record actually, because usually it's
Wow.
like $6.95.
Yeah,
So, so that said, man, listen, I'm just saying, right? It's great to create content, but don't do it because you're trying to have a platform. do it because you want to help others also be
Yeah.
good. So figure out how to have a network in your community, find young guys and offer. Just be bold and say, hey, look, I may not know it all, but listen, man, I know I've been doing it for a few years longer than you have. If you need anything, I'd be happy to take you through a process and meet
Yeah.
with you on a regular basis. Listen, man, I still do that. Like I'm 51 years old. I've been doing this hot minute, and I'm in charge of Georgia's next gen stuff or whatever. But that said, I still put myself in places where I can learn from others, and have others speak into my life. And I think we need to make sure we are continuing to make ourselves available to do that. So uh,
Yeah.
huge.
Well, and I think if you, I mean, even go back to what we said earlier, there are no youth pastors out there right now, and so we're gonna have to raise up. We're gonna have to mentor and raise up youth pastors. I
So
think
even if we turn the ship, right? Even if we start to see more people coming into youth ministry and being part of youth ministry, what we have is a wave
of new.
of people coming in that somebody needs to pour into,
Yeah.
right? So as a youth minister overall, we've got to be prepared for that.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, yep. And then number five, man, listen, I think this would just be just an encouragement to anyone. It plays off of what we just talked about. But number five, um, true true ministry friendship is incredibly important.
Yeah.
Listen, the podcast brought you and I together, but the friendship gained is what has mattered most.
Oh, no
And I
doubt.
think even in the last really during the whole COVID process and all of that, you and I have talked a whole lot more offline than we have online, because we are friends, ministry friends, who recognize our need for each other when it comes to just processing, and we've connected in that way. I would just say find that friend, whoever that
Yeah.
friend is, whoever that person might be. And part of that is if you're waiting around just going, oh, nobody's asking me to lunch, like whatever, you ask somebody to lunch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Find someone that can partner with you and be a confidant. Jody, I know, man, I could call you about anything and talk to you about anything, and it's a trusted place for me. And you know that about me for you as well. And we
Yeah.
take advantage of that often. And even though we're not recording a podcast together, it's not like we're not going to still talk all the time because we are.
Sure. Right.
And that's not a boyfriend girlfriend breaking up kind of moment where we're like, we're still gonna be friends.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's
you
right.
still be my friend? No,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's we are actually going to keep doing it. We will still have conversations, and because that has become more important to us than anything, in the midst of this. And me not being a part of the podcast is there's no animosity whatsoever with any of us about this whole thing.
Yeah. No,
It's just
not at
us
all.
reading the writing on the wall and making a
Yeah.
change.
And you and I, this whole thing started over a lunch, right? I mean, we kind of there was a loose network of guys in
Yeah,
that
yeah, kind
area,
of
but
did
it was like hit
there.
or miss. And uh, I think one day I said, "Hey, let's have lunch," and you said, "Great, I know a great Mexican restaurant."
Yep.
And then
Yep, start hanging out.
the
So
rest. And it was, even looking back, a bit of an unlikely pairing. You and I, the church context that we were in, were so vastly different.
yeah, totally. Good looking, not so good looking.
Hair, not
I mean,
hair.
yeah, I mean, there's.
Yeah.
You
I
want
mean,
me? What your? Go ahead. Now I
from
gonna say
like
it.
from the demographics of the churches that we served
Yeah,
in
totally.
to the sizes of ministry, the roles that we were in, like very very different. But the passion for student ministry was the same, and
Passion was the same.
and
The way we think about longevity is the
it's
same.
the same. And that was man, it was
Yeah,
refreshing. I had no idea what was going to come of that lunch, and honestly, I think when we had lunch, it wasn't even like a
oh, when we were trying to form this.
no no. This just kind of came out of that. What a significant moment that would be for me personally, even just in how helpful that would prove itself to be over the
Totally,
next few years. I think
totally.
the I wish folks knew how many hours we had spent not recording podcasts and talking. And
Oh,
if
and
we
we
could have
still
recorded
will.
those,
We still will. Yeah, I mean, there's
we
just
we wouldn't have because yeah
yeah. And Jody, there's somebody listening. I imagine that they're sitting there. And I wish. I just don't know who I can.
Yeah.
I need a friend like that. But sometimes it's just that nudge of go out. You've just got to start. You just got to get yourself out there and try to ask
Yeah.
people. And some people are going to be open to it, and some people are not.
Yep.
But it's just important, man. I mean, at least it is to me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not to everybody. I just don't like the idea of looking back on this thing at the end and going, I just did all that on my own, like
Right.
without having somebody speak into that and help shape my thoughts. Because I think I'm better when other people are speaking into what I do.
Yeah. No doubt. No
Yeah,
doubt.
it's huge.
Well, I'll say this, man, it has been an incredible privilege to do this alongside you, and I personally have learned a ton in our time here recording this together from you, and even beyond the podcast, just being a friend. And I think you brought a ton of wisdom and knowledge and help to listeners, and obviously you'll be back on the show at some point. Um, and you continue to do that with your role there now, and I'm just super super thankful, super grateful for this season of doing this thing together. And I know folks who are listening are as well, and have been incredibly, I not only use church word, but just legitimately blessed by the things you've shared and the ways that you have gone about encouraging folks, both whether through the book or through the podcast or through other things. But it's been good, man. It's been really fun, and yeah, grateful for the time, no doubt. A lot of Disney stories. Now, who am I? I don't really have any Disney stories though. You're the one with the Disney stories.
My son, I have tons. I didn't even share it. I didn't even get to go through the whole what my son is doing out there, man. He's like working down there, which is incredible. But
I can't afford to drive to Disney anymore, let alone the ticket to get in. So
all right.
that's it.
Geez, for real, for real, for
Um,
real, man. Listen, it's been great. I've loved it, and I'm around. I'm still available. I'll still be hanging out on the youth ministry. I'm not gonna, unjoin the Facebook group or anything. So I'm out there, accessible. If anybody needs anything, I'm happy to help. It's what I do, and it's what I love. It's what I'm passionate about. So
yeah,
thanks to you as well, my friend. Thanks for trusting me. I appreciate you. That meant a lot. And not having to start something like this from scratch was huge. So,
yeah,
and honestly, as I move forward with even some of the content that I'm going to be looking to create for Georgia, it'll come from the lessons that you've taught me.
yeah.
In this, I'll probably be asking you to help with some of it. But yeah,
Yeah, the price went up now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I will say this just for folks listening. Obviously, like I said, we'll keep rolling with the podcast. So if you're not subscribed and you've listened to this far, I don't know why, but thanks for listening, and make sure you do subscribe or follow the podcast wherever you're listening to them, so that you can catch the stuff as it comes out. If you're not on the email lists, it'd be really helpful for you to do that, because
For
there'll be
real.
stuff coming out on the email list there. I will link to the email list in the show notes, but you can also go to thelongerhaul.com and jump on it there. And then we always encourage you guys to jump into the Facebook group, and there's a link for that in the show notes as well. Just a good community, not super active, but really helpful. I think when folks, it's not snarky. People are genuinely encouraging there. A great group of, several hundred youth pastors in there, and a few thousand on the email list. But just good ways to stay in touch and know what's going on with the longer haul and what's coming up. So it'll be good. But yeah.
Good stuff.
Well, I think that's it.
I thought you were going to sing the Friends Are Friends Forever for me. I thought you said you would send me off with singing. You said no. You changed your mind.
He wrote that for a funeral.
Did he really?
Yeah. So it feels a little weird to sing that.
Yeah.
You're not.
Well,
I'll sing it at your funeral.
Green Day, another turning point.
When I went skydiving the day before I got married, that's the soundtrack they put on the video.
You went skydiving the day before you got married?
Yeah, I didn't tell
Have we
Sarah.
not had that? See, I'm glad I'm getting one more tidbit in. What?
Yeah, the
Why?
day before I got married, me and my college roommates went skydiving.
That would have been a fun story to tell. Well, I almost married Jody.
Yeah, I didn't tell her until after it was over.
Oh my gosh.
It was awesome. I'd do it again if I could do it and stay married, but
Yeah,
that won't happen. Anyway, well, Chris, thanks again.
yeah,
It's been
brother.
great, man.
All good. All
Thank
good
you
things.
guys
All the
for
feels.
listening and sticking with us. Big things ahead. Make sure you head over to YM360. Check out camps and resources and curriculum they have. I'm there for you. Use the promo code Longer Haul for you there. Info for families.com and smartphones 101 there for you. Great resources for you to help equip parents, really set you up to be a rock star for them. And then, of course, aerosport.fun for fun games, fun things. Grateful for those folks for helping us make this happen. So I think that'll do it for today. And forever. Not really. Not really.
Thanks, everybody. It's been awesome.
Thank you,
Completely
guys.
awesome.
I will catch you guys in the next episode here in probably a couple weeks. But hang with us, and yeah, we'll see you then. Stay at it. Don't quit. See you guys.